episode of Circle City Conversations. Thank you for joining us for our conversation today. I am here today with my longtime friend, fellow trial lawyer, and Hoosier Democrat, right? Nick Baker.
Yes. Thanks
Nick,
for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Nick. I appreciate you joining us. I've known you for a long time.
That's
right?
correct.
Yeah. Okay. So hell, I knew you before you even had kids.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, and the same for you. You knew me before I had kids. So let's talk a little bit about you for some of our listeners that maybe don't know you, haven't had the pleasure of meeting you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your path kind of into the law.
Sure. I'm born and raised Hoosier. Born in Bloomington, Indiana. Went to Bloomington South, and I went to Indiana University for my undergrad. I went on to Indianapolis for law school, at what's now the McKinney School of Law. I have, for the last 20 years, been a practicing trial attorney. I clerked for a judge for 2 years, and then since then have been doing exactly what you do, fighting for Hoosiers' access to the courts and trying to take on the oppressions of government and the special interests of some greedy insurance companies that we see all day. So that's pretty much what my journey's been. I mean, the background, obviously, of having a father who's the longest serving judge in Indiana history, and then a stepfather who's passed, but was an excellent trial attorney and a defense attorney, primarily in medical malpractice. I'm the only attorney in the country who's taken the Camp Lejeune issue to the United States Supreme Court.
Wow.
Fortunately, President Biden signed into law the PACT Act, which included the Camp Lejeune Justice Act, giving an avenue for those families, including my mom, to pursue a claim, my stepfather having passed away of leukemia in 2016 after his 19-month exposure at Camp Lejeune. I am currently the only attorney in the state suing the state of Indiana pro bono for what are remaining Ku Klux Klan laws and judicial selection.
Wow.
Where the governor appoints judges primarily in only those communities that have minority populations: Lake County, St. Joe County, and Marion County.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, our judicial selection process.
Yes. And that was originally started in 1925 by Governor Edward L. Jackson, a sworn member of the Invisible Empire, and his handler, D.C. Stevenson. And he created the municipal court in Marion County. And back then there wasn't Unigov, so it wasn't the whole county, but it was just the center section. It was primarily where the blacks, the Jews, and the Catholics were. And it was all to transfer judicial selection away from that voter and give the power to ultimately a Ku Klux Klan member.
So they created this back before they unified all of the townships and they consolidated them.
Yes.
In Marion County.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's basically Center Township.
Well, it was a little different. It
Okay.
kind of bled into other, what are, Washington Township.
Yeah.
But it was the municipal area
Yeah.
of Marion County where you would have those higher concentrations of minorities, or maybe not Protestant Christians.
Why do you think they got away from the elected judge system and implemented this type of a system?
Well, I think it was primarily for that reason. It was to shun and take away the voters' right to choose their judges.
Okay.
And they left in place in all the other, at 89 other counties, they still allow those primarily white Republican counties to vote for their judges.
They do. Yeah. But like you said, not Marion, Lake, and what's the other one?
St. Joe County.
St. Joe County.
And Allen County has somewhat hybrid merit selection, but they ultimately do in the general election vote for their judge.
Okay.
And these three specific counties, they only vote to retain the judge
Right.
the governor has appointed.
Right.
So even if you get one, if one is not retained, they're rejected, it still goes back to the governor for selection. And as you saw last week, they're trying to get rid of all bar members on the Judicial Selection Committee.
Yes.
Even taking away more of our impact into who those judicial officers will be.
And when that's a really good point, Nick, because they are trying to remove Indianapolis Bar Association, Defense Trial Council, Indiana Trial Lawyers Association, Marion County Bar Association, all of those long-standing attorney organizations that have been around for over 100 years, maybe not ITLA, but all of those organizations have an opportunity to put someone on the judicial selection committee, and have a say in the people that get put in front of the governor. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and they're trying to remove all of those attorneys. Who do you think they're going to try to replace them with?
Well, I think it'll be the judicial officers. Currently, I believe Justice Moulter is in charge of the Marion County Selection Committee. They usually rotate through the various members of the Indiana Supreme Court, and I think they want to keep that all in-house. And
Yeah.
in a county that is at least 68% Democrat, it's a slap in the face to the voter and their ability to not only select who they want, but to select people who are like them.
Right.
And who have the same values that they.
Yeah.
I think Marion County residents, regardless of who you are, should be entitled, when you're having to face justice, whether it's a criminal case or a civil case, you should have a choice in the selection of the judicial officers that preside over your cases.
No different than they do in Putnam County.
Yes.
Yeah. Or Hendricks. Yeah.
And so this case has been pending at the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals for 2 years.
Wow.
And we had the oral argument where our cases stayed while the Lake County's doing the same thing. They're challenging it.
Okay.
Now they're doing it with some high-powered attorneys here, and they're paying them. We're doing ours pro bono. But we stayed our case to wait for the decision on theirs, knowing it'll be of the same impact.
Okay.
And that oral argument was September 5th of 2024, and the court still has not made a decision. And I think the main reason is, I know some judges want to rule against us, but if they do, be careful what you pray for, because Illinois, a Democratic state with 80 counties of Republican white voters, they may say, hey, we're just going to allow our governor to appoint your judges. And then the roles reverse, and they should get a little taste of their own medicine at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. I see. So I want to go back a little bit. You mentioned you have family members that were judges, lawyers. Was that kind of your original inspiration? What inspired you to want to become an attorney?
I think so. I mean, obviously being around that environment, my father, I remember actually the last campaign I really put my back into. I was 6 years old in 1986 when he was running for, circuit court judge in Monroe County. And what I've enjoyed about the judgeships is the evaluation of the law from both sides.
Yeah.
Not looking at it from just one perspective.
Yes.
But understanding that the law is a balance. That's why we have the scales of justice. And we need to follow the law, and we need to and correctly introduce the evidence, and we need to let the trier of fact, whether that is the judge or it is a jury, have the power to make the decision.
Yeah.
And so, being around that, and then my stepfather, Gary Clendenning, just a terrific, awesome person, a stand-up man, and a fine attorney, a member of the highest bar organizations in the country, and just a great inspiration.
Yeah.
I do think, candidly, I was invited to try to apply for the judicial selection here in Marion County, and I'm interested, but when I see how the law is and how they're selected, my morality says I can't do that.
Right.
And I do enjoy being a player in the game rather than an umpire.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's you understand that well. So I do want to get these laws changed, though, and make it so that the Voting Rights Act actually exists.
Exactly.
I mean, this is clear-cut law.
And I think, you can do both. You can have an influence on the laws, and we're going to talk a little bit about your campaign, but also be able to maintain your legal practice. So I want to ask you about the legal practice, though. What types of, aside from some of the ones you've already mentioned earlier, the pro bono work and things like that. What types of cases have you handled in the past?
Well, I'm like you, and I've done primarily civil litigation throughout
Mhm.
my career. I have, I mean, that usually consists of car accidents,
Mhm.
slip and fall cases. It could be insurance claims, fire claims at homes. It, you know, but I've done other pro bono things too. Like right when I started, there we had, or a couple years after I became an attorney, we had the horrible floods in Johnson County,
Yeah.
and they washed out the levee and on Lamb Lake down there in Trafalgar. And they had to actually situate a fire engine on the other side. And then they had to have firefighters man it while there wasn't that access in case one of these big, beautiful homes were to have a fire. And FEMA tried not to pay them. So I had a whole group of firefighters that had worked, hundreds of hours and were being denied payment. And so I went to bat for them on another pro bono instance to get them paid just a fair amount.
Good for you, man.
So those are the types of cases. I've also done a lot of appellate work,
Yeah.
and including, at the Indiana Court of Appeals, the Indiana Supreme Court, but also at the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, the federal court that covers North Carolina and the area around Camp Lejeune.
Okay.
All the way up to the example of it was Clendenning versus the United States, all the way to the United States Supreme Court, which ironically we were able to convince one judge, Clarence Thomas, to vote our way. And had we still had Rehnquist and Ginsburg and Scalia and Kennedy, we would have won the case. But
Yeah.
they're still holding on to that doctrine. It's called the Ferris Doctrine that prevents military members from bringing claims against the United States.
I see.
And so we're just trying to carve out a section that's, if it's related to your service, it should apply. But if you're just drinking water and living your life,
Well,
that's not necessarily part of your service. That's part of staying alive.
correct.
And that's why they should have an avenue,
Yeah.
even without these. It just should be, they should revise that doctrine. But
Yes. Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, one of the things that we do, obviously, is we hold people accountable,
yes,
companies accountable for their action or inaction. Yeah.
and and we do it. We're not being paid by the taxpayers to
Right.
do our job.
Right.
In fact, if we get a recovery, we not only make it safer for everyone out there, but then we pay taxes
On that.
on that. So it's a good example of where you don't need governmental activity. You just need to honor the Seventh Amendment and
Yes.
allow people to go to a jury
Yeah.
trial, ask their peers what they think it is worth based on the law and based on the facts, and then make a decision. I mean, you and I know we cannot go in and try to lie our way through a case or sell something we do not believe.
Killed.
Yes, these are Hoosiers. They're reasonable people, and they're smart, and they know what seems reasonable and is right. And if you allow them to make those decisions, it's those sweet moments when it's like my golf game, justice, every once in a while I'll see a really good shot.
Yeah. Right.
And that's what brings you back to the course. And it's the same way in the law.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's what keeps you coming back. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, I totally agree. I always say that what we do for a living is like the truest form of capitalism. If you really believe in capitalism
Mm-hmm.
and the private individual's right to address their wrong in a court of law, like that's what we do. We are their warriors. We are their fighters, and two sides can disagree, of course,
Sure.
but that's why the system is there.
Absolutely.
And the legislator should not put limitations on that system.
Well,
Give
and
everyone open access to it.
I agree. And there's a lot of misinformation out there about claims are out of control,
Yeah.
that they're frivolous. We already have a law on that. If you bring a frivolous claim, you will be punished.
Mm-hmm.
But if these insurance companies and their special interests right now, we were just talking about this, but their profits over the last 3 years have gone from 39 billion in 22 to 89 billion in 23 to 169 billion in 24.
2x.
all while their premium rates are going up 10 to 21%. It's the largest inflationary metric of all inflation that we are experiencing. The budgets of Hoosiers, when they look at their budget, one of the biggest line items that has increased is the cost of their insurance. And what is being done at these state houses across the nation is the industry trying to pull the wool over people's eyes, act like they're the victims when they're not, and protecting them more and defending cronyism, not capitalism.
Yes.
I'm a firm believer in capitalism. I mean, I'm a conservative Democrat. I'm a small government Democrat. I love capitalism. But when it turns into cronyism,
Right.
and it's this individualism that we protect only these billionaires, like I call it the big billionaire bill. People call it the big beautiful bill. When you have 80% of the tax cuts going to the wealthiest among us, the people who need a tax cut the least, when you have, Amazon not paying any taxes at all,
It's crazy.
when you have, these extremely wealthy individuals not paying their fair share, that's where I see the injustice of our tax system, what I need to see change, because one of the biggest things we have is we're $38 trillion in debt.
Yeah.
And we're going to bankrupt this nation for our kids. I have an 8 and a 9-year-old. You have a bunch of kids.
A bunch.
And I do legitimately it's a national security issue at this point.
Yeah.
And when you have 15% of all federal outlays
Mhm.
are just servicing the debt, that's the same amount we spend on our defense.
So let me ask you this. What do you say to someone that comes to you when you say that to them and they say to you, well, you believe in socialism. You support more taxes, higher taxes. If someone comes to you, especially now that you're running this campaign, particularly in a conservative area, and they've just labeled you essentially as a Democrat, what's your response to them?
Well, that's just not true.
Yeah.
At first, if we are going to give tax breaks, I just believe they should be going to the people that actually need it.
Yes.
Lower income families, middle income families that aren't even receiving a livable wage.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't had a minimum wage increase in 18 years.
Yeah.
And it's to a point where people simply cannot make enough money. Everybody talks about affordability.
Yeah.
Right? We need to make things more affordable. That's not really how inflation works. It's very rare the price goes back down. What you need to do is you need to bring up the incomes of people so that they can have and afford what they need. And I don't believe necessarily it's only in tax increases that you solve that problem. The number one way to fix our budget is to completely and totally overhaul American healthcare. It is the largest grift in human history. We're spending anywhere between $6 and $10 trillion for a healthcare system that ranks anywhere between 32 and 40 in the world. You see it, you and I see it every day.
Yeah.
And the prices at hospitals where these charge master rates have no basis in reality. $4,000 MRIs over here, $300 MRI over here. And somehow they're supposed to both be okay. I want capitalism, and I would love for us not to have regulation, but when they cannot regulate themselves,
Right.
we have to do something about it, because it's the greatest suck on all of the federal funds, all of those taxpayer dollars. And they're going to monopolies, natural monopolies. You have insurance companies owning hospitals, owning doctors and nurses, owning pharmacy broker managers, owning the pharmacy. They own the whole circle. And yet they're supposed to be negotiating for the American taxpayer. They have a fiduciary duty to their shareholders.
Correct.
And it's an inherent conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm.
The only way you can do that, I'm at a point where we need a med. We have a Fed. We need a med.
Oh, yeah.
And they can come in, somebody like Mark Cuban is doing this. He's seeing these problems. Somebody who can get in there and actually create a livable system that ultimately is going to have some form of universal health care for those that opt in. If you're a billionaire or you're a healthcare provider and you don't want to take taxpayer money, do your capitalist thing. Good luck.
Yeah.
But if you're going to take money from the American taxpayer, we need to start regulating it because it's bleeding the country dry and it's going to bankrupt us.
Yeah.
My family immigrated here from Cuba after Fidel Castro took over, and this government took everything from my family, and that attracted me to be a lawyer. Insurance companies can be like bullies, and they have a lot of resources behind them. Give us a call here at Hearst Limontes. We are protective of our clients because our clients matter and you matter. At Hearst Limontes, we're a firm that believes in people. We don't just talk about justice or fairness, we live it. The Indiana Fever are trailblazers. They inspire not only in how they play, but how they lead in our Indiana community. Being a father changes everything. Supporting the Fever is one way that I show my kids what it means to believe in fairness, to believe in respect and possibility. At Hearst Limontes, we believe in those same things. The Fever stand for resilience, grit, determination, and heart. They aren't just a basketball team. They're a symbol of what's possible when you refuse to give up. Their impact ripples far beyond the court, and you can see it in the energy, pride, and hope that they create in our city. Whether you're a young girl dreaming of playing in the WNBA or a kid in a small town dreaming of becoming a lawyer, you belong. This partnership is proof of that. At Hearst Limontes, we believe in standing up for those people that are overlooked. From court to court, Hearst Limontes is your winning team.
That's not tax increases.
No.
That's simply getting us to not have an out of control entitlement system that is corporate welfare. It's not for the benefits. And if you look in all these counties, these 11 counties, I mean, I think there's only 3 locations left with maternal health care. Hospitals shutting down throughout the district, and several of them under threat because they cannot afford to continue under this current system.
And you're talking about in your district that you're running.
Correct.
Okay. So let me ask you a little bit about that. Was there a specific moment or experience that you had that made you realize I need to run in 2026?
Well, in 2020, I bought farmland down in Canby, Indiana, which is in the district. It's about 5 minutes south of the Indianapolis airport.
Okay.
And when I realized I'm in the 6th congressional district, and I started to look at how the elections have gone. And the last 2 elections, the Democrats have a Cindy Worth, who's one of the one of the other Democrats running in the primary. She has won the last 2 times. And she has got about 13,000 Democrats to turn out for the primary. And then in the general election, she's never got even 33 points, which is an incredible deficit. 2-to-1 voting.
Yeah.
Now you get about 311,000 people turn out for the election.
A little less than half.
Yes, but I think you'll get more this time, particularly when you see some of these Trump voters, hurting from the policy and seeing that all the populist message that was promised in the 24 election is not true. And it was a bill of goods.
Yeah.
I realized that the only way a Democrat's going to win in this district is if they're a Hoosier Democrat, somebody who's in the middle, who's trying to appeal to the moderate voter.
Yeah.
Someone who because that's the makeup of Indiana. Everybody says it's a red state. Well, actually, there's about 33% dedicated Republicans. There's about 25% dedicated Democrats. The rest will vote either way.
Yep.
They'll vote for Lee Hamilton and they'll vote for Dick Lugar. And those are some of the guys that I admire in our political past. Somebody like Andy Beshear in Kentucky. He wins in 23 and he wins by 5 points.
Right.
Trump wins Kentucky by 31 points the next year. So if you just are a reasonable person in the middle, that it can appeal to that's what I'd like to see as unity, not division.
Yes.
And we need to focus on the issues that we all agree are problems, and let's attack those and find solutions to those. Let's quit this wedge issue argument and the bickering, because there's a lot of adversaries around the world that like to see us tear apart.
Yeah.
And so it's when I see things like that, and I believe there's an avenue for Democrats with this blue wave and a little bit of conservatism on the Democratic side. You still have to hold that blue line, which I've done my whole life. I've been a lifelong Democrat, but I felt like I needed to get in this fight. It's you and I have to do this one case at a time. Well, I think I just need to get in to what's becoming the source of the problem, and ultimately what is allowing the erosion of American jurisprudence.
Yes.
And that's the scariest part. That's why I got to get in this fight.
Yeah.
My kids and my career and our legacy to this nation. I mean, it's under threat right now.
It is. Absolutely. So running for office it's not easy. What conversations did you have with maybe your family or mentors before making that decision?
You know, it's family. I have a support team.
Yeah.
You know, some people that we know well who have been encouraging me on this route for some time. Once it met the threshold of having that significant support, and then messaging that we all agree gives us a path to victory. I think, you know, I need all that. I wouldn't be able to do any of this or have the gumption to get into this race without the incentive to do it. I mean, I've been involved with politics. I've been on the committees of many well-known politicians in Marion County in the years past. And, you know, I've never been given by the party necessarily, hey, let's go. But, you know, at some point you just got to get into the fight, you know? And so that's once I had enough support and I had a team that was willing to support me, you know, it was time.
So how long have you been going at it now? How long have you been campaigning?
Yeah, that's by far the least of all of us. I registered on February 3rd, so the deadline to register was February 6th. I had been building a website for a month before that. The process is really trying to find contacts throughout the district. But since then, once we turned the green light on, I've been to now, I think, 5 county meetings. I've got to know the constituents. I have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so I'm really trying to hear what their issues are, not bark down their throat what I'm going to do. Because, you know, ultimately this is a job interview.
Yeah.
I work for them.
Yeah.
They are my boss.
Yeah.
And I need to be taking their message to Washington.
Correct.
And when I'm in Wayne County, like I was on Saturday, and I walk around their Black Expo and I talk with the people there of what is their biggest issues. And they say to me, it's housing and it's healthcare. And it's worse than that. I mean, I don't want to get into all those details, but there's some intrinsic serious issues throughout this district that need to be addressed. They need to be brought to light, and we need to do something about it.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean, I'm a fighter. Like, I was bullied when I was a kid and kind of shunned. And then my mom's like, you're going to the boys club and you're going to learn how to box.
Yeah.
And so I did. And then I won state champion.
Wow.
And boxing. And then I went from having no friends in school to holding the cutest girl's hand the next day. And I knew then that the only way to address a bully is sometimes you got to punch them right in the face.
Exactly.
And then or you got to get into their pockets, because that's the only way they're going to change their behavior.
Yeah.
They're going to be reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to take that fight to Washington. I want to take it to the bullies we're seeing in our politics, and try to bring back unity, not division.
Yeah. And frankly, getting into their pockets is a punch in the face.
Yes.
It's worse.
Yes.
To some of them. Yeah. So it's the same thing. And so, no, good on you, man, because, you know, there needs to be more people in politics that understand at the end of the day, they work for us, for the people that put them there, you know, rather than for themselves. And I think that that's been lost, particularly in the last few years in politics, you know, people just not doing it for the right reasons.
We've seen a lot of special interest involvement. I mean, that's one of the saddest parts about the United States House of Representatives. It is truly the very first body of government. You know, Article 1, Section 2 is the House of Representatives. The Senate's dialogue isn't. The Senate may appear first in Article 1, Section 1. The first description in the first office is the House of Representatives, and it is where Hamilton has his quote famous above the hall that says, "Here the people govern."
Yeah.
And the body hasn't necessarily done that for a long time, and it has had some of the lowest approval ratings for about the last 3 decades. And I would like to see if we can restore that. And I think the way we do that, I'm somebody who doesn't want to pay taxes just like the next person. We've had for years people spending money at the federal government like they have daddy's credit card, and there's just not any adults in the room. If we lived our budgets, our daily lives like they've been spending, we'd be bankrupt.
Correct.
And I'm 46 years old now. There's been 1 year at the very end of Bill Clinton's term that we ran a surplus. That's it.
Yeah.
Out of 46 years.
In 98?
I think it was 2000 was the fiscal year.
You're right. Yeah, 2000.
The physical year of 2000, and then Bush came in and immediately went back to heavy deficit. But that's our whole lifetime. It's been spending more than the revenue, and that's it just cannot be sustained. And frankly, it probably needs to be a surplus for the rest of our lives in order to get this ship back on track.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of an American kind of mindset, right? Living on credit. There's probably tons of households that owe more money than they bring in.
Yes. I mean, there is a wealth, though. The beauty of America is, you know, it's not certain folks or people. It is the American people. Yeah. I mean, that's the engine that drives this country, and it is under attack with, you know, tariffs, you know, taking away their health care, increasing their prices, supporting corporate welfare. It's under attack, and we just got to get back to that. We continue to weaken labor laws and hurt unions. Unions help. You know, they're extremely important.
Yes.
And when all ships rise together, we all win. When everybody always says this redistribution of wealth. Well, when I was born in 1979, barely, the top 1% in the United States had 10% of the wealth. Today, they have over 50% of the wealth. So if there's been a redistribution of wealth, it has been from the middle class and the lower income class to the absolute richest among us.
Yeah.
And wow. And it weakens the nation when you do that. And
correct.
And you continue to add debt, you know, and you have a market that looks great when it hits 50,000, but when the price to earnings ratio is 7-fold, it's, you know, the largest bubble I've ever seen, you know, so you got to be careful with what is going to come of that.
Yeah.
And we continue to have cronyism one direction and then socialism at the bottom. And that's not what I want.
Right.
There's a danger of plutocracies, because that's when you get people talking about dangerous socialist policy that I don't want to hear about.
Right.
But when you get that greedy, that's what brings that discussion back online.
Yes.
And that's another reason why you have to prevent it bring it back to the middle.
Yes.
America is in the middle.
That is
70%.
Yep.
Are right there in the middle. And 95% of the issues, we agree 95% of the time.
Yeah.
Let's address those issues. And then once we're done and we finish all that homework, we can go back to bickering about all those other issues.
Right. Right. I love it. The future, looking forward to the campaign. What's next on the campaign trail?
We are a grassroots operation. There are, all my donors are individuals.
Mm-hmm.
We have raised very little money, but, somebody said to me the other day, what are you going to do against Jefferson Shreve?
Yeah.
He has $600 million. He spent $15 million, I believe, on his failed mayoral campaign here in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do? Money wins elections. Well, actually, the number one metric that wins elections is votes.
Yeah.
And so with a grassroots operation, getting these friends, family, and volunteers to come online and knock on doors. We have to show face and show time throughout the district that we really mean what we say, that we really give Democrats, our candidacy by far, I believe, gives us Democrats the best chance in the general election.
Yeah.
To appeal to the moderate voter.
Yeah.
And my hope is that, every day I'm going to be doing something. I'll be attending multiple campaign events. There's an NAACP meeting in Wayne County. There's several dinners, and anywhere and everywhere I'm allowed to be or invited, I hope to be, and that or a representative of the campaign.
You said 11 counties, right?
Correct.
What are those counties?
Well, you have the southern 3 townships in Marion County.
Okay.
It's like Decatur, Perry, Franklin townships.
Mm-hmm.
You have all of Johnson County.
Mm-hmm.
You have the northern half of Bartholomew County, where Columbus is.
Okay.
You have Shelby County,
Mm-hmm.
Shelbyville. We were there on Friday. Hancock County.
Yep.
We were there 2 Mondays ago with their excellent chair, Linda. She's a firecracker and just an excellent organizer. Really rallies the Democratic Party in Hancock County. You have Henry County, Newcastle.
Oh, yeah.
Rush County, Rushville. Fayette County, Connorsville. Wayne County, Richmond.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have the southern half of Randolph County.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't include Winchester, but does include the southern half where Lynn is located. And I think I got them all.
Yeah.
I have to go back and
The
check.
kind of south of Indy, it kind of wraps around east and then heads east towards the Ohio border. Yeah.
To the state line.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, if anyone is out there listening, in those counties, make sure you reach out to Nick Baker. All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Reach me directly at nick@electnickbaker.com, and I'll personally respond to emails. I have been.
yeah.
And I just want to help find more contacts. I'd like to find more youth and younger individuals that want to get involved. This new generation, they're incredibly intelligent.
Yeah.
There's an incredible humanitarianism to them and the power they have with technology. I really would hope our campaign can tap into that and we can have a breakthrough to the multiple schools, higher education schools that exist throughout the district.
That's one of that demographic 18 to 30. They're not very involved politically. Is that fair to say?
It most certainly in the primaries.
Okay.
That's what I'm most concerned about. We have a primary on Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, 2026. I guess I don't emphasize that enough. Yes, we have a general election and most people are ready to show up in November, but we need people to show up in the primary.
Yeah.
We have to win this stage in order to get an opportunity to go against Jefferson Shreve. So that's what I'm really trying to drive, is to get Democrats to show up, or people who are an independent voter and, you're not saddled to having to pick a red ticket. You can pick up a Democratic ballot for the primary, because you like a specific candidate. And I encourage that. I want the independent voter to participate in the primary because then they're going to have the choice of the person that they want to see on the ballot in November.
Yeah. And regardless, Democrat or Republican, we all want to see people get out and vote. I mean, you said 300,000 votes in a 777,000 person district. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. I mean, I think there's about 468,000 registered voters.
Yeah.
177,000 households. But to see only 13,000 people show up and vote in the Democratic primary the last 2 election cycles for the House of Representatives, that's woefully inadequate.
Yeah.
We need civic participation. It is crucial to a working democracy. When people do not vote, then democracy erodes. And the more they participate, the more they get out there and believe that their voice matters. You know, that there's so much apathy and so much disgruntleism with people in Washington that I understand why they are apathetic to go and vote. But it's time everybody goes, and they go, you know, it's from April 7th to May 5th they can vote. Early voting begins April 7th.
Okay.
And you can vote all during that time, all the way up till 6 p.m. on May 5th. And we got to get as many people to participate. And yes, I want everyone to participate. If I could, I would almost make it a civic requirement if I could. But, you know, it's something like the SAVE Act they're trying to introduce in Washington right now. And it's really devastating to married women that may not have a passport and are expected to somehow have their marital name on their birth certificate, and the process they'd have to go through. You know, that law is actually ironically going to hurt a lot more red states than it is blue states. There's a lot more blue voters with passports than there are red voters.
Yes.
And I don't like that. If you are suppressing voters, Republican or Democrat, it's wrong. It's un-American, and it needs to stop.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, the entire focus of that act and that bill, it's just wrong. It goes back to the what you mentioned earlier. People are worried about their house and their health care. They're worried about where they're going to live. They're worried about if they get sick, how they're going to pay for it. You know, all of this other noise that we're hearing doesn't actually fix the problem.
Well, and I don't want to ignore those problems. You know, I mean, obviously what we've seen in leadership in the Department of Homeland is atrocious right now.
Yeah.
What we're seeing on the streets of Minneapolis, stomping on civil liberties, ignoring the Constitution, executing Americans in the street, it's absolutely wrong. You know, Obama and Clinton deported more individuals under their tenure as a president than Trump ever has.
Yep.
And he did it without locking up children for months. And the costs are getting to like $700,000. We should just be building these people a house at this point. I mean, I hear calls to abolish ICE, and I don't believe that. I don't want to abolish ICE. There are good people that work there, and immigration and customs enforcement is an important element of the federal government. But we need to get rid of the knuckleheads that are in there.
Right.
And we need to get rid of the leadership. It's atrocious.
Yeah.
I know.
I listen, I agree with you. I don't get on board with the abolish ICE thing. I do think that, like any government agency, federal, state, if they cross the line, then they should be held accountable.
Absolutely. And there, you know, and there should be no prevention for a trial lawyer to come get them.
Yeah.
Because that's their check.
Yeah.
Is for people like you and me,
right,
to have those laws available to show them they're wrong.
Yeah. And you hear this talk about nuclear verdicts and things like that. The reality is that type of a case, more often than not, you get a defense verdict. And those are the statistics that nobody really talks about.
No.
Because more often than not, it's hard enough to bring that type of a case. People want to trust that, let's say the police. People want to believe that the police would never do anything wrong like that. So it's already an uphill battle for us. Not to mention all of the protections that they get under the Tort Claims Act and other things like that, other immunities. So, but we could, that was another episode that we just did with Chase. Yeah. On ICE. So, well, Nick, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for being here. If anyone listening wants to find out a little bit more about you, you said you had a website. Tell me a little bit more about that.
It's www.electnickbaker.com. I'm new to social media, so I just started a Facebook and Instagram account, and I'm learning my ways on there. It's a little scary place right now.
It is.
That's an example of lawsuits that we're supporting right now that they're facing off in New Mexico, trying to hold them responsible for facilitating predators, and hurting children.
Mm-hmm.
It's time that we actually have checks on that. But you can go to my website, electnickbaker.com, go to my social media accounts. There's a contact form on there. It'll go directly to my email. I'll reach back out if anybody wants to help and volunteer, spread the word, get some pamphlets around, just to, if not to, as an endorsement of my candidacy, an introduction.
Yeah.
So that people know when the primary is and what options they have.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nick. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's been awesome.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to another episode of Circle City Conversations. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any future conversations.